Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Russell Hill of the WTF, and that is What the FixedOPS podcast. All of you, man, we got an exciting person with us today, but I'm followed by...
I'm Charity Dunning, your co-host here. Now, let me introduce our guests. We have Jeremy Stevens, the Remote Operations Director at Bozard Ford Lincoln with us today. Jeremy, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Well, what exactly does a Remote Operations Director do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I probably should have asked that before I took the job. But what I do anything outside the dealership. So we have Matt Norris, he's the Fixed Operations Director, and he handles everything inside the dealership. And I'm your friendly outdoor guy. So anything that happens outside the dealership, I'm responsible for, which includes mobile service. We have a tow truck now. We have actually 2 tow trucks now, pickup and delivery. So we're just adding to it to see how we can serve our customers.
That's awesome. I, recently started interacting with this SodaCon, which I thought was phenomenal.
Yes,
and I'm very close to Ed and Natasha, who's the COO of Bozard Ford Lincoln. I think they're like the 3rd or 4th largest Ford store in the world or something like that now, or something like, anyway, amazing operation from front end to back end, more of which you'll hear about. But I've been following Jeremy for a while, really down home, down to earth guy, but he's serious about what he's doing. And how many mobile trucks do you have now?
We have 23 out on the road right now.
And you have how many more coming by the end of the year?
Total, we actually have 46 on the ground. So we're in development mode now, trying to fill those trucks. We can't fill them up too fast because there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but we're shooting for 46 by the end of the year.
Wow, that's like, phew. For all of you out there, you're going to get a crash course today on what's involved. You may have a lot of questions, and at the end, you'll be able to find out how you can reach out to him, etc. But this is a machine. But before I actually dive into that, what I'm fascinated with, Jeremy, I'd like you to share with everybody is some of your story. How did you get here? How did you get to Bozard? How did you get to be the remote operations manager, et cetera? I want all of you to hear it. A lot of you may know him, but a lot more of you are going to get to know him because you're thinking about doing some of these same things, which is going to be part of the future in fixed operations is the convenience of mobile services. So please, how did you get here, Jeremy?
It's not like a one sentence thing. So it's pretty cool.
We're looking for more than one sentence.
It's like a 2-hour. No, so it's been an incredible journey to get here. I always tell my story. I started at a service station when I was like 17 years old, and started out as a technician when I was 19 at a Chevrolet store, and just kept advancing and went to the previous place I was at for 20 years. I started as a technician and increased it to where I was the operations director, and through that I was very interested in leadership and growing people, and I just started putting a lot of stuff on social media because I feel like there's a gap between the seasoned people that are on the verge of retiring and the next generation coming in as leaders and managers. And there's this big old gap in between that we really didn't prepare well. So I'm running across a lot of people that need to know a little bit more about leadership because half people think you're born a leader and you're really not. You can be trained as a leader. So I've been putting a message out on social media that, there's some fundamental things you can do to develop yourself, not only professionally, but, personally also. And that's how my journey began with Bozard, is just being on social media, because I was seeing what Ed Roberts was putting on there. And I was like, I feel like we're like the same content. It's that servant style leadership, employee, customer first. And we had a connection. So probably over a year ago, I told you earlier I have 5 boys. So one of them lives in Florida. He works at Disney World. So we were visiting my son one time, and I was like, let me just instant message Ed Roberts and just see if I can stop by his dealership and see what it's about. And of course, knowing Ed Roberts, he's that inviting guy that says, yeah, come on in. And we toured the dealership, and him and I just made a connection, and we stayed in contact. And it was it's pretty cool looking back now because like I said, I was at my previous place for 20 years and I felt like I just felt like it was my time to go. I wish I could explain it better, but sometimes in life you kind of grow to a point. It's like I just think there's something more out there for me, and this isn't the place. So I started looking for another job. So I was interviewing with some other dealerships, and then I get a phone call from Ed Roberts and asking, why do I go to Florida quite often? What am my connection with is in Florida? And it just happens so it's like, we're thinking about expanding our remote operations. Would you consider that? And I hesitate a little bit because I grew up in North Carolina, as you can tell from my accent, from what everybody tells me. I was born and raised there. I lived there my whole life, and packing up my family, moved to another state was kind of a big deal. Um, but pretty much, the story ends. I accepted it, and I couldn't be any more happier to work with not only Ed Roberts and his team, but just the Bozarts, Bo and Letty, phenomenal people. That's what I tell people. That's my advantage. I got a powerhouse that owners that are just totally involved in and employee engagement and how to and grow. So they're speaking my language, and it's pretty cool to see operators really investing that much in their employees.
Thank you. I mean, and I know Charity, I want to try to see if Jeremy will share something with us. So
Yeah, go for it.
I had an opportunity to know, and a lot of people who know Ed and what he stands for in the leadership and mentorship and training and coaching and development and everything from inside and the owners that you're talking about. But if you've never had a chance, of course, make sure that it's appropriate time. I had an opportunity to spend a couple hours with him and let him go to St. Augustine and let him take me through the dealership. And it was like a culture I don't recall ever experiencing, the feeling, the vibe, whatever you want to call it. It's amazing, the teamwork. We got a lot of questions, but there's something that you left out, and of course you don't have to talk about it, but you shared something with me, or maybe it was, but it had to do with, I don't remember all the details, but something burned to the ground. You lost everything.
I did. So there was a point, probably '07, '08, where I actually left the dealership for about 2 years. I always had a desire to have my own business and kind of be that guy that had his own shop. So I did. I opened a shop up. It was my dad's old repair, kind of like old shop that we had beside the house. So we fixed it up, 2-car garage.
Right.
And I remember it was a November day in North Carolina where it was not cold, but kind of warm. It was like one of those where you do I wear a jacket or not. The wind was blowing, and I did something stupid and pretty much caught the whole shop on fire and burned it to the ground. Lost everything, lost all my tools, all that stuff. So starting over from scratch, I tried to rent a shop from a guy and it just didn't work out. So all those years ago, I reckon it's been 15 years maybe. I started doing mobile work back then. Found an old busted up U-Haul trailer. I, made some makeshift tools and threw in a trailer and pulled it with this old ratty Suburban with the paint popping off of it. It looked horrible. Um, but was able to grow it because back then people were intrigued by it. Where I had 3 vehicles at one time. I bought a double axle trailer, put a tire balancer, a tire machine in it, and it really grew to something. But I just couldn't. I was so far behind from losing everything. It was just. But yeah, so I did mobile for about a year and a half, a long time ago.
Thank you for sharing that. I bet you learned a lot of very valuable things about life and getting back up and shaking it off and all the things you went through, the thoughts, the trials, the tribulations. Thank you very much. And that would be something we could probably spend a whole hour on, but we want to get in some other nuggets as well. But I encourage you, because you see, one of the things Jeremy said is he wants to mentor people. He wants to coach people, not just train. Training is one thing. And after you get trained, you have to continue on. And I think sometimes training is looked at as a word like it's empty. It doesn't really mean it. We're training people. Yeah, okay. I'm talking about next level. I'm talking about after you're trained, coaching and development and leadership, whatever it is that you want. That's the kind of stuff that Jeremy's really into as well. So I encourage you to reach out to him at some time as well. Anyway, thank you very much. Charity, please.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting question. From your perspective, Jeremy, what is the difference between coaching, mentoring, and training?
Yeah.
So training to me, when somebody says you got to go to a training class, I'm like, oh gosh, you got to sit in a room and hear all this talk. But what I love about coaching, it's more of a one-on-one situation where you're really getting to know that person, because a lot of times you go through life and well, I'll tell you a story. So my oldest son played soccer, and he played travel soccer. He played soccer in college, and I remember sitting from the stands, and he's dribbling the ball, and I feel like he's being a ball hawk. And I was like, what the? And after the game, and this is parents, if you don't do this to your kids after the game. So I'm like, you had the ball,
Yeah,
you had it
right.
on the left side, you were dribbling in it, and two other people were wide open. And he looked at me and said, Dad, my main job was not to lose the ball. I had no idea. I was trying to fight for my life so they wouldn't take the ball from me. You're in the stands, you see it from a whole different perspective than I do actually on the field. And I was like, sorry, that blew my mind, but it stuck with me forever. And that is coaching. Because sometimes you're in a dealership and you're like, feel like you're drowning, you're tired of being the firefighter and you don't know what's wrong, but somebody come alongside you and they see it from a different angle, because sometimes you're so close to the problem you can't even see it. And a coach is there to go alongside you and help you go around those obstacles or remove them to get to where you want to go. So you set that target like a GPS, and a coach works alongside you and move it along. And I have one-on-one coaches. I've had coaches like this for the past 4 years, and I can go farther and faster than I could me trying to figure it out all by myself. So to me, that's the kind of difference of coaching versus training.
Powerful story. Yeah, very powerful. Charity.
Well, let's return to mobile service. So tell us a little bit about the behind the scenes of all this work you guys are doing on mobile service. Like what are some of the difficult aspects of it that you really have to figure out? Or, I don't know a whole lot about it, but, give us some insight.
So there is a lot to it. There's a lot of moving pieces, but it's doable, because everybody looks at it, it's like, oh my gosh, I just see all this mess, and it's like, what do you do with this? What do you do with that? It's like, you do the same thing you do in your stores, except you just kind of tweak it a little bit for the outside. When people ask us like, how do I get started? I said, well, just get started with one van. Don't make it complex. Don't feel like you have to catch up with the guys that are having 20 vans. So start with one and map it out. But one thing I do know what dealerships are bad at, because I was that guy also, that you find a good employee like a service advisor. It's like, hey, you're doing a pretty good job. Can you also run mobile service while you do your other job? It has to be treated as a standalone identity, just like detail or used cars. It needs to be its own little department. That's the struggle when I listen to people. They're trying to merge it in with their regular service with somebody that's already maxed out, and they're just adding it to their plate, and they're looking for a way to fill it. But there is a lot of behind the scenes stuff. But if you keep it simple, don't overcomplicate it, it can be managed pretty good. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Well, it does in one way. So how many people do you generally need to run one mobile unit?
So right now, one mobile unit, you could have one service advisor that can do pretty much all of it with one van. So they could help with the scheduling, they can help coordinate it, they can sell the service and stuff like that. Well, we found out that once you start scaling it, four vans to one advisor is a good ratio. You can get to 5, and they can still manage it. But in our numbers, and everybody's different, you have different personalities, different areas. But I found it that when I put 6 vans on one advisor, it starts to crumble a little bit. The processes kind of get skipped over. My quality goes down, and customers are calling us instead of us being proactive. So that's kind of my ratio, 4 to 5 per advisor. And they can manage that side of it. Because the technician does a lot of the work. The technician greets the customer. Our technicians creates a repair order. They talk with the customer. Now, if it goes to where they need to sell anything, or if the customer needs more explanation, that's where they can reach out to the service advisor and they kind of take over from that side. So there's no cookie cutter approach. You kind of got to look at what the tools you have with you and adapt to that. But definitely, if anybody has any questions, I can help them at least lay on the foundation, because I've done a lot of things wrong with this. So I'm figuring out what not to do now.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Russell.
No, go please.
Well, I'm wondering, how are the customers responding to mobile service versus the dealer being in the service department?
So when it's funny because I was talking with my team about this the other day, because I just came back from a parts and service conference, and when I was speaking about it, I had the same scenario. But if you think, when you schedule an appointment at the service department and you go to the service department, nobody cares about that customer until they get into the service drive. But before the customer even gets to your service drive, at 7 o'clock in the morning, they're thinking, how do I got to get my kids? How do I got to do this? I got to find this. Their stress level is already at the max, because we have altered their day for them to drive 30 minutes to your dealership, go through traffic, and then hopefully they can figure out where the service drive, and hopefully they can find out who to talk to at the dealership. So I never thought about the customer's point of view before they even get to the parking lot. But what I found out with mobile service, our customers are 10 times as friendlier out at their house than they are at the dealership. It's amazing how we had a technician last week. He showed me a schedule and he says, hey, there's a note on this customer that's in capital letters that says heat case. I was like, all right. I said, well, just do your thing. And he got there and he said, that customer was awesome. That's like it. He said he was so nice. And so the customer interaction is 100% different when we bring service to them. They absolutely love it. I was telling somebody, one of my technicians got tipped a fruit tree. I got a picture of one of these technicians holding a tree, and the customer loved the service so much they gave him a fruit tree. And I was like, that's pretty cool.
There's a theme here. I want to stop just for a second. Earlier, when Jeremy was talking about his son in the basketball, about you see things differently from different perspectives. Just like the customer, how you're received and the convenience of that. I mean, let's face it, they're not looking forward to the 30-minute drive. No telling what they're going to run into, what kind of delays, what's found out. Okay. And they're mentally preparing for this. Okay. Those are odds that are stacked against us. So what I'm really fascinated about, yet mobile service has been around forever, but I'm in so many, from Clubhouse to different Zoom rooms. I mean, I'm in so many because I want to stay up on what's going on. And I've heard a lot of things, and what captivated me, and I hope all of you, I'm sure, about Jeremy and what he's doing, is I hear things that there's just like, okay, they're finding reasons not to, but I'm telling everybody, this is my conviction. This is part of the future, and you're going to have to get into the game. And it starts with just getting started, like anything we haven't done before, and you figure it out as you go along. But you have somebody like Jeremy, who is into mentoring and coaching and developing and stuff like that, and be more than happy. But when we're talking about that, and Charity's question about how you're received. So, and I've said this many, many times, this is an example of convenience. I can go to Walmart to get a gallon of milk, but I'm not walking out with a gallon of milk. And I'm not going to be back in 20 to 30 minutes, anything. I'm going to walk out of there dropping a $100 bill, and I'm going to get out to my car, and a cart's going to have dinged the door. And by the time I get home, it's 45 minutes later, and all I wanted was a freaking gallon of milk. Okay. Or I can go to the convenience store, be there and back, pay twice as much. And that actually cost me less because it's much more convenient. Is it kind of similar to that, Jeremy?
Oh, exactly. The convenience of that van pulling in their driveway, and they're some of the technicians say, yeah, they're just kicked back drinking beer. You know, some of them sitting there and watching them. It's like it's just that convenience level. And people asked us, it's like, why aren't you charging more for this service? And it's crazy the response we get. It's amazing. The customers are, when a technician is in their yard, there's a different respect level with a customer interacting with a technician than it is a customer to a service advisor.
I bet.
And we've always in the past, and I've been guilty of it in previous jobs where it's like, no, you keep your technicians in back. You don't want them to talk to customers because you just don't know what they're going to say. I'm finding out that customers won't, you know, within reason, they
Sure,
want
right.
proven facts. And sometimes technicians can present it in a way that's kind of, it could be direct, but it's the facts. And they're not trying to sugarcoat it. They're saying, hey, your car's broke. It needs this. And it's a better interaction. There's not like a middle guy or anything that goes through and stuff like that. But that convenience factor is huge. And plus you're sitting in the driveway and neighbors ask the technicians, what are you doing in this guy's driveway? And it's like, oh, do you service this car? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just brand awareness it's amazing how that works.
Even if they don't have a Ford, you can
Yeah.
serve, in a lot of cases. So when we're talking about this kind of stuff, and I really do feel it's one of many things that are part of what's going to be the evolution and service departments evolving for customer retention, repeat, and referral, all the things that all of us have talked about for years and years and years. Just like when I started selling cars in 1985, the average person sold 10. In 2024, guess what? The average person still sells 10. Well, okay, you keep doing the same thing, expecting different results, and you're not making any changes. But here's some of the things I hear as well. Insurance costs, the liability factor, those are real challenges that I hear about. Could you talk about any of that? Or, there has to be some protocol of mistakes that you've made and come out on the other side that you can share with everybody.
Yeah, so there's always something that's going to happen, and I try not to focus on too much of that stuff just because
Sure.
it rarely happens.
Okay, good.
Just with, of course, there's a chance that you could crash your van. I mean, there's a chance a technician can crash your van on a test drive.
That's right.
Asked us like, what do you do when you spill oil in the driveway? I said, we do the same thing as if it came from Quick Lane and you spill oil on the driveway. Everybody puts all this stuff and it's like, it's no different than what you're doing now. It's just a totally different setting. There is some questions that you have to ask when you go to, especially like places of business and apartment complexes. There is some word tracks you got to use to make sure we're allowed on property and make sure there's any kind of crazy insurance thing. And you run across to it just a little bit. It's not all the time. Some of the fleet customers rent their parking lots from other places, so we can't service them. So do you think we don't service them? No, we just take them outside the yard and do them out on the side. We find a spot to do it with.
Right.
It's just that open mindset thinking of removing these obstacles, because you can sit back and come up with so many different reasons of, this will happen, this will happen. I was like, yeah, but it's like when service advisors come up to you, it's like all our customers are mad. It's like they're always mad. And I was like, who? And then you come find out it may be 1 out of 20.
Yeah, right. It's all, yeah. How about the scenario earlier when the customer's kicking back, drinking a beer and they say, Jeremy, would you like a beer? I'm sure that happens.
I'll be honest with you, it does happen. And that's where you really got to make sure you trust your guys and you talk about stuff like that. So because we have some levels of protocol that kind of assures that, because once I see that guy, I don't see him back until the end of the day. And sometimes I only see him, I may not see some of these guys for 2 days just because we're not catching each other.
Sure.
But we have team leads in the field. So our training process is pretty deep, and we have 2 guys that's out on the field that spot checks them. But I trust my guys, because you got to give trust to get it back. And we talk about stuff like that. It's like, hey, this happens. This is what you do. Just communicating with the technicians. We're very good I don't tell anybody how to do their job because it's stupid for me to say how to do their job when they do it 10 hours a day. So we try to receive feedback from the people with the boots on the ground so they could tell us. So you have to create that environment that they can they can speak their mind and you're not beating them up over anything. You got to create that environment where your technicians can actually come to you and be approachable, and so you can work out those issues and openly talk about them.
Let me guess, at this very moment, another vendor is walking up to your lot with something shiny to sell. Before you head back and hide in your office, let me take a minute to tell you about my friend Don Pelham and my friends over at Global Dealer Solutions. They exist to help you find solutions to problems, some of which you might not even know you have. Best of all, they can manage as many products and services as needed for you, helping cut down on multiple vendor visits and distractions. And if you need anything, you have one number to call or text for the response all dealers like to hear. On it, GDS understands that successful dealerships require more than a set it and forget it mentality. And they'll be with you every step of the way, from setup, implementation, training, and support. And if necessary, they'll even cancel non-performing products for you. No pushback, no arguments, just a solution here executing course corrections as needed. Check out gdsdealers.com to learn the difference and set up a time to meet. Let's see if they're a good fit for you.
Good.
Yeah, that's kind of the example of overthinking things, right? It's like, oh, insurance, the parking lot is rented, they're an apartment complex. Like, what do we do? And that's a little bit of a worry wart situation. And I know I can be that way for sure. So how do you handle that when you're approached by that personality type that's, what about this? What about that? What about this?
It does. It happened to us at that parts and service event, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I was like, man, if you're focused on all this stuff, you shouldn't do it, because your mindset, because when you think that way, it's going to fail, no matter what. And it's like, if you talk to any successful people, if they listen to the naysayers, the ones that says, what about this? What about that? It's like, good gosh, we'd be stuck in our houses, not innovating anything on that side. So people would come with me. I was like, I don't think you're quite ripe yet. It's almost like you're checking the vegetables out in the garden. It's like, there's still some growing there. But if they're going with that mindset, I kind of discourage them from doing it, because, if you're going in there with that mindset, it's not going to work out.
Nope.
What is the mindset to have? If we talked a little bit about the negative side, what's a good characteristic of the positive side?
Pretty much just keep that open mindset, because you're going to run in hurdles of you're going to get doors slammed in your face all the time, but it's just that relentless attitude that it's going to work out. You definitely have to be open minded, because every scenario you go to is not going to be the right scenario. There's always going to be obstacles, but you got to be that leader to help these guys overcome those obstacles, develop them where they can think for themselves. It's like, because a lot of times they'll come to you, and every manager has experienced this. It's like, hey, what do I do this? How do I do that? It's like, what do you think you should do? And they all know the answers. That goes back to that coaching. When I coach people, I don't know much about their situations, but they do, and they can solve their problems their own. But, just that open mindset and able to adapt and, overcome issues.
If I had somebody like you, which I have had many people in my life like that had a lot of fruit on the tree, and they wouldn't solve my problem. They would help me articulate or my thought, what I had to do to solve the problem, instead of, hey, I had this emergency, what should I do? Well, it's like you could do it for them, but they don't learn.
Yeah.
You have to let them do it for themselves and find those struggles. If I was a technician or a mobile technician or advisor, I think I would probably prefer to do that than work at the dealership. I don't know. Are your people pretty loyal and committed once they experience that?
Yeah, they are. We're always talking about the vision and why we're doing it, because a lot of times you set these goals, and the goals are great. We have goals. We have a scoreboard, because I like to have that target. But if
Sure.
that why and vision is not strong enough to carry you through the highs and lows of that you got to go through, then it's kind of the scorecard is useless from that point. And getting everybody on the same page, everybody chasing that one goal, that one vision. And our vision is, we want to change the way the automotive industry does business. We want to be that customer experience dealership. And that's my rally cry to those people. And we're going to do it by bringing service to all these customers. And that's our rally cry. And that's the question that I asked them when they joined my team. It's like, don't think that this thing is perfect, because it is not perfect. I'm the guy that likes to change everything every 4 hours just because I'm constantly thinking of how we can improve things. So I get on people's nerves. And I got people around me that kind of says, hey, that's not a good idea. I was like, well, fine. I need you to tell me that so we can move on to the next.
Right?
But it does create that momentum. It's pretty cool to see all your guys step up to the plate and rise to the occasion. It's pretty cool. I love it because I see it from my side. I got some people that I work with that we've been together since December, and they're totally different people in this 7 months than they were when we first started. And it's cool to see that. That's when I get excited, when I see people win and people become leaders, and it has that multiplying effect and everybody rises up to it. So it's been pretty cool to see in the short time we've been together.
That's great. That's mentorship, leadership, developing. That's all the things that I experienced when I went to that dealership. And when I hear you say that, if I would be thinking Ed Roberts, even if you weren't a part of that and just listening to you, that's the kind of stuff that all of us are looking for out there. Not about the what and the how, but why. And focusing on, hey, staying in my own lane, running my own race. And if they do something, I can't control that, but I can control how I act and react to it. And you know what? You can change lives. You can change minds. Absolutely. Great stuff, Jeremy.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit. You said people are different after 7 months or whatever going through your dealership. How, why, how does that happen?
So it happens with being intentional about it. I always wanted people to. We only have people for a short period of time. Sometimes we have them for a long time. But I want them to be better when they leave than when they came, basically. And it's purposely growing them professionally. Leadership growth. We go through a lot of one-on-ones. I love one-on-ones. I'm a big fan of it. But it's also being truthful with those one-on-ones. Usually, so I started writing this book about building a winning team, and one of the chapters is one-on-ones. And when I was a manager, the owner came up to me and said, "Did you do your yearly evaluations?" It's like, "Yes, boss, I did it," and I just checked it off the list. It's those dumb ones that you ask the company, it's like, "How do you think you did this year?" And then I think back, I was like, that is so stupid. What employee's going to say? "Oh man, I failed. I'm horrible." It's like it's all big. and so we my one-on-ones have a purpose, and it's an honesty thing. And it took me years to become honest with my employees, because I used to lie to my employees because I didn't want to hurt their feelings. And what I saw is nobody grew from me being fake. And now my one-on-ones are more intentional. So Russ, if I'm doing a one-on-one with you and you're doing something I don't like, or in the past I'd be like, "Oh, he'll outgrow it. It's fine." Now I'll address it, but I'll have details. It's like, "Hey, something that's hindering you from growing is how you react to other employees. Like the other day, you said this to that customer, that other employee, and I really don't think you understood the impact that made on that person." It's those aha moments. So we've had a lot of those where, employees have an issue with somebody, typically you want to go solve that issue. But my philosophy, and if you got an issue with somebody, you go to that person and address that issue. If y'all two can't solve it, then get me involved in it, and we'll solve it. But getting to that level where I'm truthful with our employees, I say, hey, you're great at this, but let's work on this. And I'm going to help you get to that point. It's not that, hey, go fix that. It's like, no, I'm going to help you. How can I help you? Let's come up with a plan so I can help you grow to get to this level.
I love it.
And that's how people transform quickly, is being that one-on-one where you're giving them honest and feedback.
Yeah, well, I think, it takes me to the topic of the automotive industry. It seems to me, and I believe, there's a lot of hidden opportunity in the automotive industry. How do you agree? And how can we be more vocal about the opportunity that exists for hardworking individuals in this industry?
Great question.
It definitely is. There's a lot of hidden talent. And any place I worked at, I see people as like, and maybe just me, and sometimes I feel like I have these rose-colored glasses, but I just see potential in people. And especially the ones that are under the radar. Those are the ones I focus on the most, because it's like there's something there. And just being to challenge those people and just really address them and just say, hey, I think there's more to you. Let's see what we can do to get that out of you. Let's figure out what to do. And a lot of it is just a confidence thing where they don't believe they can.
Right.
Or they've never been given the chance to shine. So you got to create that environment that Bozard does wonderful. You create an environment that people can shine. But it's just interacting. It goes back to that one-on-one time. If you listen to Marcus Buckingham, he has a book, and he says the most powerful thing you can do for your employees is to spend 5 minutes a day with them. Powerful thing, just 5 minutes to see how their day was yesterday, what you're working on, just that chat. And it kind of creates some confidence on that. And it takes a little bit of working, but you identify those people, help them find their strengths, because we're good as managers to find everybody's faults. And their faults may be something they're not wired to do. That's where the DISC assessment, the working genius, comes into effect. So you can fertilize those strengths and nurture them. And even if they don't believe in themselves, you have to make it to where, your belief in them can carry them until they can believe in
Exactly.
themselves. I don't know if I said that right.
Yeah, you did.
But they have to borrow your belief before they can believe for themselves. And that's how you get those diamonds in the rough, where you can reach them and polish them and let them become superstars. And that's pretty cool to sit back and watch.
It is. I have, when I guess there's something to be said, a cliche about people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, which is why it is a cliche, because it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. The impact that some of the mentors have had on me, because I was ready, they prepared me, and they didn't soft sell it. It was going to be difficult to make some of the changes that I wanted to make, but they knew I was ready, and I was willing to stretch and get way outside of my comfort zone. But they passed on a belief in me, and I wasn't chastised or you're wrong and wrong. That's not a leader. A man, that's somebody who's just managing you, and they don't know anything about true leadership because they hadn't been shown yet. But when it was, when I took responsibility for where I was at and everything that was happening in my life, all the people around me, I ceased fighting everybody and everything and realized it was me. And if something's going to change, it had to start with me. And I found somebody like you back in the day that was willing to pour into me like that. And I don't even remember all the situations and encounters we had on the physical sense, but I'll tell you something that has never left me is how it made me feel.
It's definitely powerful when you have that person that just is there engaging you and working with you and just, making you something that you don't even, because a lot of times you see somebody, it's like they do not see their full potential.
A lot, actually.
Because I'm a firm believer that nobody walks into work and wants to lose that day.
No.
I don't think it exists. Everybody says, no, they're lazy. It's like they just don't have something. They don't have nothing to aim for.
Yeah.
They don't have that vision that
help them find their why.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm a firm believer that it's like, yeah, I hope I suck so bad today at my job. It's like,
oh, that's my mission in life today, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't run across people like that. And maybe I'm overlooking them, but I just don't see that.
No.
Especially the new generation. So everybody talks, and I don't know if this is a question on there, because nothing grinds my gears when there's oh, this young generation they're lazy. It's like I was like, you realize my grandpa said that about my generation.
Right. Exactly.
We were going to burn and everything else, and it worked out. And what's cool about this younger generation, and I wish people will see this, they are hands-on. When you talk to these 19, 20-year-old kids, they're the ones that's tinkering back again. They're wanting to be hands-on. They don't want to go into a office building. They want to do something with their hands. They want to do something mechanically. So there's this cool generation that's coming up. And I hope everybody's ready for it because it's going to hit, it's going to be pretty fast because
it's here, isn't it?
It is. So everybody says, oh, you can't find people to work. It's like,
yes,
are you even looking? Because in December, I had 12 technicians, and I have 41 technicians on the mobile team right now. In 7 months. And it goes back to that why. Why does young people want to do it? It's like, guys, don't y'all want to do something different that nobody else wants to do? It's like, what great timing to bring mobile service into recruiting these young guys, because I'm finding out some of these people don't like going to the same place every single day in the same bay, doing the same thing over and over. And this gives them something new, challenging, something different every single day. And these younger kids, they said they can't talk to customers. I was like, they're doing it. I got 41 out there doing it. But there's a turn in the industry, like you said earlier, and it's pretty cool to see it coming.
I have engaged with a lot of them, and I hear what you're hearing about people saying, they're lazy. That no. You don't understand them and what they want and how they think. They want the same things that we all want. Well, what's that? That they count, they matter, they make a difference, and they're part of something bigger than just themselves. Why don't you start there?
Yep, exactly.
And listen, maybe to understand instead of maybe to respond, or whatever, right?
That's important.
Most definitely.
Well, what you've been in the industry for over 30 years. How's the industry changed over time to you?
This question was, I had this question when we were at a SodaCon, and I was thinking, so I started at the dealership, the 95 era, and the biggest thing that came out then was the internet. And I think back, I remember the first time I logged in the shop foreman's office, it freaked them out. They heard that crazy now thing. I was like, cut it off, cut it off. I was like, we're connected, it's fine. And I look back, and it was the same process 30 years ago. And really the only thing has changed, the cars have changed. We got some new added software, the video MPIs, texting has changed, emails, and that's really the only thing that's changed. And I've been on this, I won't say a rampage, but I've been on this thing where I'm frustrated with how our software basically, because I'm looking at the aftermarket world and they got the coolest software. And I'm looking at some of the dealership software, and it is still the same as when it was years and years ago. And I used to be so against DMSs because I thought it was their fault, and I have to apologize to all the DMS providers because it's really our fault. It's the dealership's fault. And I know I'll probably get some hate on that, but it's true because I remember when I was on a particular DMS and they had an update change to where it kind of came into a window-based program from the flashing cursor. I've never heard so many cuss words toward one DMS that you changed it. Oh, it's not the same. So it's like, I don't think it's the DMS providers. I think it's the dealership is not, they're so resistant to change in that area. Even like paper ROs and stuff like that. It's like there's these common things that we've done for so long. It's time that we have to evolve with it, or I feel like the dealership's going to get left behind. I mean, soon we're going to have cars driving by themselves, and we're still working on DOS programs trying to service our customers with some of this stuff.
Yeah, and you know what? I along those lines, I remember when we got our first website in 1996. Okay. And we had, unlike today where things are a lot slower, we had the ultra fast dial up AOL modems back then.
Yep.
Okay? And I'm telling you, but within the first year, a company approached my dealership. I was managing a Mitsubishi and Nissan franchise. And it was a company called Auto by Tel and had internet leads. Okay. And I'm here to tell you that we signed up with them. We had a protected territory. And back then, when somebody submitted a lead or was interested in a vehicle, I'm telling you, they're buying the vehicle. Okay. It's, but the world's over. That's it. Nobody's going to, you're laughing because that's exactly
It was. I remember this conversation. It's like, what do you mean we ain't gonna put nothing in the newspaper? How are we gonna sell cars if it's not in the newspaper?
Yeah, right. Or all the competition. You can find the reasons that it will, or you can find the reasons it won't. And I got to tell you, I believe the vast majority out there are not ready for that. They're signing up for technology, and for you guys, technology to accelerate momentum that you have because of what you want to do is wonderful. Technology to create something, a vacuum or a void that you don't want to do that you think it's going to do for you, you lost. You already lost. It's not going to work for you. You got to grasp it, get into it, pay attention to it. Now the AI stuff. Oh, the world's changing. That's it. It's the same. I've heard it for 39 years, and look, we're still here, still doing it. As a matter of fact, this is the largest opportunity I've ever seen for fixed operations to turn the 16 non-franchise entities that have permeated our drive to the franchise dealership that we've lost for a multitude of reasons, that this is the single largest time, I believe, where we have an opportunity to get all that back. Not all of it, but a large percent of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, speaking of AI, how do you think that will impact our future as an industry?
I think it's pretty cool. If I had AI when I was in high school, I'd have made straight A's, not all my F's and stuff. So,
you get chat GPT.
Yeah, I mean, it fixes all my grammar because I don't have a big vocabulary and stuff. But with AI, what I love about it, especially on the mobile side, and it's not, there's a lot of stuff that's working. What's cool about it is to do
a lot.
But think about the ability where AI is monitoring all our repair services on mobile. It's monitoring my time and stuff like that, and it can create these patterns and stuff. It's going to be pretty cool. So I'm excited about what it can do as far as the mobile side, and we're talking with some software companies right now that there's a way that I want my work to be dispatched, and I got a software company that kind of matches what I was thinking and what the team was thinking, and they're actually changing their software to adapt to a dealership mentality on that, and they use software to kind of generate the best routes, and it's just pretty cool how some of this stuff is working. So I think it's going to be an advantage for us. That's
the right attitude. So even in my car, and it's just good, the autonomous vehicles are coming, no doubt about it. It's like the Jetsons, but again, you have the naysayers out there. Oh, the world's going to end. I'm going to lose my job. We're not going to be able to make any money. No, you can look at it either way. It's entirely up to you. You can look at it negatively, or you can find the positive and embrace it because it's a huge part. But I mean, parts distribution. There's so many letting you know when this happens or that happens, or if this is close to happening, bring your car in or call for a mobile service that something's fixing to go out. I mean, there's so much that technology is going to help us streamline things. I believe. Do you believe that too?
Oh, absolutely. And I think what everybody's mindset goes to is that Skynet. You remember that movie, The Terminator?
Yeah.
I think they instantly go to, that's what's going to happen. It's like we're going to have these robots take over everything. But I just look at it as from an efficiency standpoint. Right now, we've maximized what we can do as far as people on the team, as far as scheduling and stuff like that. And I'm fine with that because I want to make sure I maximize the human effort as much as I can. But now it's limiting me unless, I hire 100 people and it's not efficient if I do that.
Hmm.
Now there's software that can offset that, where I don't have to have 100 people. I can narrow it down to a quarter of that and still be efficient, still have jobs for people. Because with customer experience, I don't. I'm the type where if I know there's an AI bot on customer experience stuff, I will not do it.
Mhm.
I don't. I disagree on AI with customer experience because I still think that's a human touch point.
Human side, absolutely.
It is, but as far as the logistics and mapping stuff out and a lot of the other stuff, then I'm a fan for it.
I think that you and I and Charity, and a lot of you listening out there are hopefully thinking the same. It doesn't make any difference what it is. You know, there's a revolution here and things are evolving. As a matter of fact, yeah, I forgot the guy's name, but I heard it from Glenn Lundy all the time. In the next 5 years, we're going to evolve as fast as we have or faster than the last 100 years. And that's because of this technology. Okay. Oh, the doom and gloom, just like the internet leads with yeah, the doom and gloom. If you're focusing on that, it's there. And yes, are people going to do wrong things with it? Just like anything? Of course they are. Do you have to associate with those people or be a part of it? Of course you don't. There's a lot of positive.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, do you think if you were to speak to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself?
One thing that I would do is and I tell my boys this, I would have been better prepared for when the manager opportunity came. I've always been a fix me first person. So if I could go back, I would find these guys that are personal growth and leadership development. So when that opportunity came, then I'm already ready for it. I did it backwards where I probably had the bones and structure for it. But when I was a first manager, oh, y'all wouldn't have liked me. I did everything wrong. I was horrible. So looking back, that's one thing I should have. I wish I had a coach. I wish I had, but I wasn't even looking for it. I didn't even know they exist. But now there is with social media and stuff like that. There's so much. I mean, YouTube. I've learned so much leadership material just by watching YouTube. It's
Yep.
phenomenal.
I'll tell you what, I use it for all my honeydew projects around the house. It saves me. I only have 1 or 2 trips to Lowe's instead of 8 or 9. Takes 2 hours instead of 10 hours because YouTube has a step by step, and I mean it's phenomenal.
We
You
need
know,
some AI. We need an AI honeydew list thing. Maybe that's what the next thing needs
well,
to
they
be.
got one. I just saw it. You know, we're gonna have to have another one of these. But something I think that is, uh, people ask me that on other shows I've been on, and we've asked it in different ways. If you could go back and tell your 18-year-old self or whatever, what would you tell yourself? Well, I wouldn't have listened. So it doesn't make any difference what I would have said to my 18-year-old self because I knew it all, right? But I do think, I think that it worked out just the way it's supposed to work out. You're a better human being and a better individual today, and you're not a manager. You weren't prepared for it, but you are a leader. And there's a difference. And you had to go through what you had to go through to get where you're at right now. And I think that had it not happened that way, I would have never met you. And I'm honored, and Charity and all were honored to have met you because of what you stand for. Because we need more people like you in this world, okay, that lift and edify and spend the time getting to know people and find out what makes them tick. Because I found the older I get or the older somebody gets, they have all these dreams and aspirations of things they want to conquer and go out in the world and do. And then they start trading their time for money and they don't have mentors in their life at that point in time. And they think that this is all they're available to have. And that's not the case. You can be and go and do whatever you want to do. And I know you're a proponent of that as well, aren't you?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. There's you got to figure out. I always tell people like, well, what do you want?
Yeah.
Um,
It's hard to get. The older people get, it's hard to actually, they're afraid because here's what people told me. You can't do that. I tried that. That won't work. Well, I interrupted those people.
yeah, and it's and even if you ask yourself that question, it's really hard to answer. Not
It is.
every time I ask that, it's like nobody really can give me there's a couple people that can answer it right on the spot that has that mindset, but a lot of them is like, I don't know what I want. I was like, well, that's the main problem. It's like you have no direction. You're just
That's
going
right.
through life at that point. You're like
Yeah.
one of the zombies around here, just walking around with no purpose.
Yeah.
So you got to ask yourself that question. And then I was like, well, how do you see yourself? And because I was talking to a gentleman yesterday, he was 37, and I was like, shoot, I'm 47. I was like, well, picture you as me. Where do you want to be at? 10 years older, what does your life look like? What have you accomplished? Because it's important to start thinking long term, just so you have that target. Because I've had long term targets, and everybody said, "Did you achieve them?" I was like, "No," because once I started in that direction, my life changed, and I got smarter and a little bit brighter. I was like,
Mhm.
"I don't want that no more." That's
That's right.
it's
So
like,
people that are evolving and whatever success they'd like to have in their lives, it probably, at least here's my experience. I'm not saying it's this way for everybody. Every year it changes because I learned so much. I've adapted and I want something a little bit different, or I didn't realize, whatever. So mine keeps evolving over time. Even at 65 years old, mine keeps evolving.
it does. So it's like vacation. It's like, what is your fantasy vacation? I was like, I'm like going to North Carolina beach, sitting on the beach. And now my wife's a travel agent, and it's like that's not my dream no more. It's like I want to be on a freaking cruise ship. I was like, forget the little sitting on the beach, put me on a cruise, and it's like as you learn and grow and develop, your mind changes. Like you said, it's like, well, that's not important to me now.
Hmm.
My important is growing my kids. My kids are adult now, so my
That's right.
priority is helping them be a success. I'm always telling them my failures. It's like, it's like I don't even know what my kids think of me because I tell them everything I mess up because like, how do you even make it in life?
Hmm.
But I want them to learn so they can get a little bit further than they are, and they have. It's amazing to see my boys where they're at now. Then I was thinking back when my oldest one's 31 now, and he's opening up his own chiropractor part in
Wow.
his office,
Wow. That is
and hear
phenomenal.
and hear his struggle, how he got there, and that relentless attitude, and he got hooked on personal growth, and he got in a mastermind class.
Wow.
And
That's great.
as soon as he got in a mastermind class and surrounded himself with great people, it's like his mindset, everything went up. Because I always love Les Brown. You ever heard of Les Brown?
Yeah, I gotta, yes.
Yeah, so
I've seen him
yeah,
in person and it's phenomenal.
he says, if you hang around 9 idiots, who's going to be the 10th one? And it's like,
You? Yeah, I believe, and my mentor taught me this a long time ago that, and a lot of people here, but I am a sum total right now, Jeremy, of everything I've ever seen, heard, read, and done up until this moment. So if I want the definition of sanity, right, to keep doing the same thing, expecting different results. So if I want a different tomorrow, there's only three things that are going to get me there, but it starts right now. Who I associate with, what I read, and what I listen to. New input equals new output, because all I knew before that was what I knew and how I acted and reacted. And that was I thought it was all about money at one point in time in my life, like 30 years. It's money. I just want to make all the money. What are you going to do with it? Okay, well, today, money is a byproduct. What I want to do is serve. What I want to do is give back, because I found what keeps me going is by helping other people find their direction and keep going. So you pay it forward, but I think that everything, at least for me, and it sounds like you, is to pour into other people and help them find. That's where I get my most money. Doesn't satisfy me.
Yeah.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I mean, I still don't have it today, but I will someday maybe. But regardless, it's about the journey. It's about what is happening today, not necessarily the destination. Destinations aren't really good for me because when I get there, I don't know what's next, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, man, we burned up the whole hour.
Yeah. It's a good time to wrap up, Russell.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm good at rabbit trails.
Me too. Okay. Okay. Listen, we got to. We're done. But take a minute, Jeremy, and if people want to get a hold of you, they would like to tap you for information to help them offset some of the mistakes they can make by some of the mistakes that you've made about mobile service. Hey, you know what? Not even, about that as well. But hey, maybe how the best way to live your life, maybe some coaching, mentoring, and developing, etc. How do people get a hold of Jeremy?
So the best way is, of course, social media. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Definitely, you can email me. My email is stevens749@gmail. Very easy. Reach out to me. Remote service. I love leadership. I actually have a leadership business that I coach one-on-one service managers and parts managers to help develop leaders and stuff. And I just enjoy doing that. It's pretty cool to somebody that's struggling and there's some insight that we can help help them grow. And like you said, all the frustrations I've had when you've been in the business for 30 years, you still see new stuff, but you've experienced a lot.
So one more time on the email, is it STEPH or STEVEN?
STEPHENS 749@gmail.
Jeremy, listen, and Charity, thank you so much for helping. Look, she's the one that gets all the kudos, Jeremy. I really just show up. I'm serious. She is freaking amazingly talented and phenomenal. And I like to lift her up as much as I possibly can, because women in this industry, and particularly in her position, you don't see a lot of them. So, but listen, everybody out there, hugely successful episode of WTF, and that's what the FixedOPS to all you out there. You're going to see this in a few weeks, and it's going to be everywhere. The whole thing, shorts, 9, 10, 12, 13 different social media, Spotify, YouTube, Google. I mean, it's going to be everywhere. A lot of you are going to be on LinkedIn, but you make comments, reach out to them, like them, love them, share them. And build them up, or reach out to him if you want some information, because this guy is going places. This guy has already gone places. And if he can help you in any way, trust me when I tell you, he's the guy that if he can, he will. And thank you so much for another very successful episode, Jeremy.
All right,
Thank you, Jeremy.
all.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I've
Great.
enjoyed
Yeah.
it.